Big things happening in the altcoin sectors in crypto. Yesterday, we got big clarity moving forward on altcoins and securities, or if they are classified securities, from the SEC. And then today, we see huge stuff happening in the Hyperliquid ecosystem involving the S&P 500. I think this is really providing so much clarity for people in the US worried about regulatory restrictions moving forward. And also, I think this adds so much upside to the Hyperliquid token. And we literally have tangible numbers as to what to expect if the volume from this S&P 500 Hyperliquid integration goes back into buybacks of the Hyperliquid token. So we'll talk price action, price predictions. We'll go over the Hyperliquid chart. We'll talk about the SEC news and more in this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, guys, be sure to drop down below, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel for more every single day here on In The Game. We have you covered top to bottom with everything you need to win in this crypto market. And a lot of our favorite altcoins are doing very well in this market. You can see this Hyperliquid chart, which is absolutely ridiculous. So shout out to anyone who's been following here for a while. You know, we talk about hype, we talk about Tau a whole lot, and people who actually took action on this are looking very good at this point in time. And a big shout out to Gravity as well. We're going to be looking at some charts on Gravity today. Gravity is one of the #1 perp dexes in the entire ecosystem of crypto. And on top of that, you can literally park your stables here and earn off the trading fees up to 15% APY. They have an upcoming airdrop. You can check them out down below in the description. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. And like I said, you know, Hyperliquid's leading the charge. Look at the one-day charts here. Obviously, we have FOMC, so we're going to see some volatility on the charts as of today. But everything is in the red all the way down here. I mean, we have Caspa up today, but otherwise, you know, Hyperliquid's up another 6% today. And it's one of the only alts on this daily time frame that is doing anything positive. And I mean, this chart, like I said, is absolutely monstrous. What is causing this, and also what caused this entire run? Because I do think that this was priced in, the news that we're going to talk about today. But regardless if it was priced in moving into this morning's news, I still think this provides upside for the token over the course of time. So let's just dive right into it. Yesterday, like I said, the first thing we need to look at here is from the SEC. And the SEC came through the door yesterday and had a 68-page document going over the fact that they are really classifying not many altcoins. You know, most crypto assets are not officially securities. This comes through commodities, collectibles, digital tools, stable coins, and digital securities. So a lot of altcoins had regulatory clarity yesterday, and this was doing very well in the market. You know, Bitcoin was still trending around that $74,000 level. Like I said, today we do have FOMC. We're going to see some volatility, so that might be short term, but also we'll have to see what those interest rates are going to look like throughout the year. That is going to be a major factor. But the fact that the SEC is, like Jesus is saying here, ending their war on crypto and classifying most crypto assets as not securities, this provides so much leeway moving forward for investors to feel confident in their investments in the crypto space. You know, over the course of time, we've seen so many different things come through the door. You know, this is ruled a security, this lawsuit saying that this coin is a security, and then usually it gets dropped. So this was great to see yesterday. And then this morning, we had massive news in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, and all the hype bulls are definitely going crazy over this today. As we see here, Trade XYZ, which is, you know, in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, the S&P Dow Jones indices and Trade XYZ have joined forces to launch the first official S&P 500 perpetual contract, available exclusively on Hyperliquid. So the very first overall S&P regulated Perps contract coming to Hyperliquid. For 69 years, the S&P 500 has been a defining reference point, and until now, it has only been shaped by market hours, intermediaries, and geography. Today, that changes. The S&P 500 Perp is now available 24/7, 365. This is game-changing for on-chain stock market S&P 500 style investing, and this is living right now exclusively on Hyperliquid. We can see here they licensed the brand for the first official S&P 500 perp trading on Hyperliquid. If it wasn't obvious already, we've now got clear confirmation that Hyperliquid is the primary venue for price discovery outside of traditional hours. And this is absolutely true. They are housing everything finance. If we were to look at what they cater to now, they cater to the S&P 500. They cater to gold, silver, crude oil, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, all the different stocks. And a lot of these now, like you see here, S&P is available 24/7. That's insane from a perps contract perspective. And then on top of that, obviously hundreds and hundreds of crypto assets. So what are the implications here? Kaleo points out that the literal standard of performance is the S&P 500 Dow Jones indices, and they chose Hyperliquid. I don't think you understand how massive this is, and how massive is this for the price action? That's what we're mainly going over today. While this is a landmark for crypto, that we have this available to us at our fingertips with the #1 finance platform in crypto, Hyperliquid, we see here, Hype's at 41. You know, we see people like Arthur Hayes saying $150 by August. Who knows if that comes true, but this does add a lot of volume and buyback pressure to it. HIP4, which is our next update, is on testnet, and they've done $1 billion in buybacks. The thing is you are still early. And how can we tangibly say this? Well, first and foremost, at $40, we're still 15, 20% away, 25% from all-time highs. So we're still not even trading at all-time highs, despite all of this news. We also see here, you know, this probably is going to eventually pave the way for hype ETFs. And if BlackRock was to eventually file, now that they have this S&P license, that's actually massive and probably does pave the way for some sort of a mainstream BlackRock or Grayscale Hyperliquid ETF. I think that this is definitely on the table. And you just look at what's going on. I mean, $2.1 million in fees and $50 million in net inflows over the last 24 hours. And we see here yesterday, they had $1.43 billion in open interest. This S&P contract is only going to add more to this. You can see the numbers here. The Trade XYZ Perp futures open interest by asset classes. This is leading into today. And now Trade XYZ on Hyperliquid is now bringing this S&P 500 perp to the table. This is going to change the landscape of how we're looking at the daily fees, the daily buybacks, because it's going to bring so much volume. The fact that this can be traded 24/7, 365. Cooker points out, some of y'all are not realizing this also de-risks some regulation concerns. So that's what I mentioned at the beginning of this video as well. I've had a lot of people and look, in the US now, you can just buy hype on Coinbase. So I want to point this out. A lot of people have always asked me, Hustle, what is the risk? Because you can't technically use Hyperliquid in the USA. You have to, if you wanted to really try to get around it, you could try to, utilize a VPN. But people have said that they've had their accounts locked. So a lot of people have been kind of, I don't want to hold my hype on Hyperliquid. But I think the regulation concern here is probably going to clear up for US investors. First and foremost, you can buy Hyperliquid on Coinbase. So if you're in the USA and you want to buy Hyperliquid, you can literally now just go to Coinbase and buy it. So there's no risk of you having to, go to Hyperliquid or be able to, try and just buy it on a source like that, and hold it there and just hope your account doesn't get frozen because you're in America. Long gone are those concerns. And you can also utilize a DEX to buy Hyperliquid on Project X and just hold it on the Hyper EVM chain. Very easy. So if you want to buy it on chain, you can buy it on Project X from any different chain, and you can just hold it on Hyper EVM, which is not gate kept. US users can use the Hyper EVM blockchain. And then number two, you can just buy it on Coinbase if you really want to be regulatory. But I do agree with this, that a lot of people have wondered, is Hyperliquid going to get banned in the USA? No. And I think that this clearly points that out. And I don't think that Hyperliquid is at any risk at this point in time, given the fact that this S&P 500 contract is now going live. So we talked about, what is this going to do for the price action? So first and foremost, like I said, I think this run definitely had something to do with this news. As they say, buy the rumor, sell the news. Someone knew something this whole way up. And there's no coincidence. I mean, Hyperliquid is probably the best business in all of crypto. They make all this money in fees. They buy back the chart every single day. So like, there is factors that contribute to the price action in bullish time periods. But I mean, this run here was really aggressive. If we just look at the ruler, we can see here from Tuesday, February the 24th, all the way up to here, it was a 70% mover. And while, yes, the strength of Hyperliquid, I'll be the first to tell you, is insane, probably something of this was priced in, that this was going to go live this morning, right? Because we hit $40 just a day or two ago. Someone knew something, and a lot of the price action definitely flowed in here, but also perp action. People are piling into perps as Bitcoin is going up. So there is multiple factors here, but the upside in the future is massive. And the team from Hyperbeat, really smart guys. DGen Quant here says, the S&P 500 index trades 1 trillion a day in volume across spot ETFs, futures, and options. So $1 trillion daily perps would mean total fees by traders 1 trillion times 0.048%. That would be 480 million a day. Now, they're not going to capture all of that market share. So even for this example, we could tame it down. Even if they do 5% or 10% of that, okay, that's $24 million at 10% or at 5% a day. Protocol share is $240 million a day. So let's say, that brings it to $12 million a day that they would be making from the fees if only they captured 5% of this. They take home 50. So you can see the $12 million, and at $41 price and $257 million circulating supply. If they did the whole market share, which is unrealistic to start, if they only bought back $12 million, so 5% of this, that would be about 250,000, I think. Yeah, 250,000 Hyperliquid a day. That still removes a significant amount of supply. So this example is saying if they brought home $240 million a day by capturing the entire ecosystem of the S&P 500, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But even if they're taking off, 5% of this, which would be, I think, just a fraction of a percentage, but every single day, that's what they would be buying back. Because if you are new to Hyperliquid, what they do is they would take all of these fees, all the fees that come in from traders, they utilize this to buy back the chart every day. And right now they're buying back about $2 million every single day almost on the chart, which is tremendous. They're taking supply off the market. Hyperliquid will eventually be scarce because the company has taken all of the supply off the market. And if they can capture even 5% of the global volume, the $1 trillion in volume across spot ETFs, futures, even if they do 5% of that, the Hyperliquid supply is going to become very, very scarce. And the buy pressure daily from Hype is going to be insane. So even at a realistic perspective of just 5% of the global market value coming into Hyperliquid S&P 500 perps, this puts so much buy pressure on Hype. And on my price prediction video last week, we talked about how $100 is not unrealistic. I mean, Arthur Hayes says $150 by August. If that happens, I mean, hey, I am incredibly happy with that. But a realistic perspective, I could see $75 to $100 in the right market in the midterm, 6 months from now. I don't think that that's impossible. So that is something to definitely look out for. I'm going to be tracking on this channel as well. We'll talk about it. How much volume this perp is getting. And we're going to be tracking the inflows on fees and how much is going to buybacks, because this could start taking way more supply off the market if outsiders come in to Hyperliquid to start trading these S&P 500 contracts. So, I mean, extremely bullish here. Like, I don't really know. This is a huge catalyst to be able to take more supply off the market, to increase those buybacks, to increase the fees. I mean, Hyperliquid is a giant in the crypto industry already. They're super lean. They're putting so much capital back into their own stock slash crypto, Hyperliquid. And I think that this is going to do tremendous things for the price action over the long term, and really just solidifies, Hyperliquid is the powerhouse of finance within the crypto industry. So that's today's update. Huge news in the Hyperliquid ecosystem. SEC providing clarity on altcoins. Really all we can ask for, FOMC aside, bullish long-term for crypto and specific altcoins. So guys, like the video down below. If you enjoy the content here on the channel, we are posting 5 days a week, every single weekday, to have you covered in the crypto markets. They trade 24/7, 365, and we're going to have you covered 5 days a week. Like the video down below and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. As always, trade responsibly, my friends, and of course, stay bullish, my friends.